about it. As a small business owner like me, I rely on leads. There's a good mentality called the 2-10-40 mentality and principle, where every day you want to be talking to 2 prospects, right? Every week you want to be talking to 10, and every month you want to be talking to 40. So I use that guideline of, okay, if I need to meet that quota, what am I going to do? These are people that want my services and they want to talk to me. So I want to make sure I can integrate and literally connect with them within a second. I don't.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that has founded several startups and small businesses and grown them into 7- and 8-figure companies, as well as the CEO and founder of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. And today we have another great guest on the podcast to do an expert episode, Sean Boyle. And Sean does a bit as what I would say a marketing expert, and we're going to hit on a few interesting topics, everything from potentially hitting on chatbots and local SEO or Google Ads and website building, and a few things to be aware of as you're building a business and growing it. So with that much as an introduction, Sean, welcome to the podcast.
Devin, thank you so much, man. It's an absolute pleasure to be on. And yeah, just to give your audience a little background about myself, I'm a serial entrepreneur just like you. And I co-own a digital marketing company called Momentum. We do virtual tours, digital marketing in general with web design, PPC, SEO, all that great stuff. And I also host my own podcast, the Sean Boyle podcast, really all about human optimization, whether we're talking physical or mental, just optimizing you to the best person you can be. So thanks so much for having me on, man.
Awesome. Well, excited to have you on and talk a little bit more about marketing and a few ways for people to help position themselves. So let's just dive right in. So I listed off a few, but maybe one that, is, I don't know, controversial is quite the right word, but one that is uncertain for people is the idea of chatbots, right? In the sense that I know, when I go on a chatbot, usually if it's a chatbot, I sit there and if I can tell it's not a human on the other end, I get turned off in the sense that half the time it doesn't really understand what I'm asking for. It says, here's a thought. Did this help you? So give us a little bit of thought. Are chatbots worthwhile? Are they worth integrating? Are they a waste of time? Or are they somewhere in the middle?
Hell yeah, they are absolutely worth integrating. Let me tell you something. So when you go on Facebook, you go on all these big companies and you see the chatbot, you get turned off, right? Because A, they're not personalized. B, they don't answer your question. I mean, how many times have you had to go on Facebook, you have something wrong with business manager, right? You go on their support and you can't find anybody. You're just stuck to, not talking to a human, and it just doesn't work out. So what we do with Momentum, if you guys at home that are listening, go to momentumvirtualtours.com right now. What you'll see is when you go to the site, you'll see my pretty face and it says, hey, this is Sean here, a real human. How can I help you? And, Devin, the one thing that I strive to do is making it as personalized as possible, because although, I get a notification on my phone, if people see, oh, this is an actual person that's like ready to rock and roll here, then it makes it that much better. I've had a lot of people and a lot of clients that are wanting to integrate the software, but I always tell them, the technology is great. It's fantastic because you can literally cut your bounce rate and increase your closing rate by an exponential margin. But if you're not having your face and you're not making it personalized, then it's just going to be like any other chatbot, man. So
when you say personalized, does that still mean that it's a machine learning or just a bot that has a response to certain keywords, and you're still saying that? Or is it more of that, hey, it actually connects to a human being and they can answer questions through your phone? Or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of both, man. So with the with the personalized setting with ManyChat, are you familiar with ManyChat, right?
Heard of it, not overly familiar with it. So treat me as if
awesome. Dude, this is something you got to get this for your site, for your company. It's incredible. So it connects with Facebook, right? So what happens is once someone comes to your site, you actually get their name and the picture of them, so you can connect with them not only on Facebook, but they see your profile as well. So again, it's just making it as personalized as possible. But the big thing that I will stress is if you're saying that there's a human on the other line, you got to make sure that there's a human. You can't just lie and say, oh yeah, like we're going to let a robot take over, because you got to think about it. As a small business owner like me, I rely on leads. There's a good mentality called the 2-10-40 mentality and principle, where every day you want to be talking to 2 prospects, right? Every week you want to be talking to 10, and every month you want to be talking to 40. So I use that guideline of, okay, if I need to meet that quota, what am I going to do? These are people that want my services and they want to talk to me. So I want to make sure I can integrate and literally connect with them within a second. I don't care if I'm asleep or I'm, I'm in, hopefully some of the, most people have common courtesy to not hit me up at like 3 a.m., but you'll be surprised. But during business hours, I'm always on there. If I'm in a meeting and I'm not saying, hey, give me 5 seconds, I have to write this guy back real quick, because they want to quote. It's that simple. It's that extra effort that I'm talking about, man, that just goes and speaks volumes. And again, it closes more business for you at the end of the day. So it's a tremendous thing, man. I could talk your ears off with this. It's great.
And I had to laugh because we'll slightly disagree on it, and not that it's not a good conversation in the sense so the way we have ours, we do have a chat system set up, but it connects to all of our some of the people in the office's phones, right? So if somebody asks a question, they do kind of a round robin where somebody available to chat for a few minutes, and kind of a rule is, hey, if this doesn't look like it's a reasonable prospect or it's kind of not within our wheelhouse, we don't spend a lot of time on it. Vice versa, if they are a good prospect, then we encourage them to set up an actual strategy session with them. So we kind of have that set up. But, I have to laugh because one of the times that we were doing it, I was on the other line, I was chatting with them, and they were convinced I was a chatbot, meaning I would say, no, I'm not a chatbot. Let me actually explain, and I'd answer it real person questions. And they, oh no, I've seen these so many times. I'm a chatbot. I'm like, no, let me explain. I'm a real person. I'm actually answering your questions. And so I had a 2-minute conversation convincing them that I wasn't a chatbot. So just as an interesting aside.
Dude, it happens sometimes. People are skeptical, and you try to convince them, you try to talk to them in real human words, and they're like, no, this is definitely a chatbot. Learning, the AI technology is there. This isn't really human.
All right, so now we'll go off the less controversial topic. So we talked a little bit about chatbots, local SEO. First, for those that don't know, explain the difference between normal SEO and local SEO, and kind of why one matters, or how you use them differently, or how you position yourself.
Sure. So for the people listening at home and then watching, I wish I could actually draw a graph here, but on this side, we have SEO, which is, we'll talk about the website, right? So you can do on-page SEO, you can do technical SEO, which is embedding keywords, embedding metadata, linking out, that sort of thing. Local SEO, which is great for your and I kind of businesses, where we rely on local-based searches. So what does that exactly look like? You guys are at home and you have your phone, Google virtual tours in Philadelphia. My company, Momentum 360, comes up #1 in that little 3 company snack pack, they like to call them. 90%, and this is very crucial for your audience, 90% of all searches go directly to that little snack pack with the 3 businesses, right? And the reason that is because they're the top 3. Google prioritizes that because Google thinks, oh, these are the most legitimate companies based off of the proximity and based off of what they're doing. Google's main thing is they want to make sure they're answering the question. So if you put in a prominent keyword search like lawyers in X, or law companies in X, they want to find you in the best way possible, right? So to do that, and it's very simple. I preach, Devin, on actionable tactics, and this is an actionable tactic. Someone who's just driving home and they don't know a thing about SEO, they could take it. So Google My Business is the #1 factor for local SEO, right? If you don't have a Google My Business for your company, you want to go online, create that free profile, optimize it, and once you optimize it, you can start posting products, you can start posting your website, all this stuff, right? You want to get more reviews. That's #1. #2 is you want to build out social bookmarks in local citations. So what does that look like? That's talking about, your Moz's of the world, your Facebooks, of course, Twitter. Those are social bookmarks. What's a local one? I mean, Yelp, we know, everyone knows Yelp, and just stacking up all like super pages, all of those citations, because Google cares about 3 things with local SEO. Name, address, phone number. It's called the NAP, right? So you want to have that consistent across the board. If it's consistent across the board, what that's going to mean is your platform is going to be entitled as legitimate or as more legitimate, because they think, oh, they have the same kind of information across the board, so we're going to rank them higher because they're more priority. They're more of an authority figure just based off of that. It's just all a legitimacy thing. And then the third thing, kind of just finishing up, is obviously getting started with social media if you haven't yet, and writing content. Content's king. So those 3 actionable tactics, man, with local SEO, it's very, very important.
So if you were to take the number one top, or people that are or don't have the budget or the ability to hire a marketing company right now, they want to get going on something, what would be the best thing they could do to get started with local SEO?
Make that GMB, like I just said, go through that top 3 priority, make your Google My Business, make those social bookmarks and citations, and create your social media profiles, your Instagrams of the world, Twitter, LinkedIn, business accounts I'm talking, right? And then also with social bookmarks as well. So, I just touched on that, but like citations. So, and this is all free. This is all free stuff. It's not, it's not stuff that you have to continually pay for. Google.
One question on that, and one I haven't or don't know, so it's interesting to me.
Sure.
So I go out and make my Facebook, I make my Instagram, I make my Twitter, all of the top social, bookmarks type of a thing. Do I need to be active in order to continue to rank better? Meaning, because my guess is, and I'll put it at least in me, my situation is I don't know that I always want to be active across all the platforms. Meaning, I don't use Twitter much. I've never really understood it. I know other people love it. I'm not a huge Twitter person. So is it better for me at least to create the profile when I never use it, or is there a drawback to doing that and then having what would be kind of a dormant or less active one, or give maybe thoughts on that?
So here's the thing, man. I mean, I'm not saying you're making excuses at all, but with Twitter and all these things, you need to post. People love content. So in my opinion, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was first getting started, we had 0 accounts across the board. I was like, I am not a social media savvy person. At the core of me, I am not that person. I'm colorblind. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm red, green colorblind. So design, it's just not my forte, right? So what I did was I took my weaknesses and I put that off to somebody else who did specialize in that. Okay. So if you have someone at your company, or you could hire on Fiverr a social media manager for like $10 for an entire week, or like $100 for the month. That's what I used to do. And so I took that over so we could hire it in-house. But you need to be posting adequate content. So what does that look like? On LinkedIn, you got to know your target audience. You got to post more professional stuff. Instagram, Facebook, you can be a little more loosey-goosey. Twitter, be a little more lax in that. But the biggest thing is providing value. So what we do, I don't want to harp on my company too much. I'll actually tell you what one of our clients did that we were able to help them do. Easy Pickings. They're a women's retail shop, Jersey, Philadelphia, and New York, right? They have like 30 shops. Richard Warsack, shout out to him. One of the best owners I've ever met in my life. I mean, this guy's awesome. And he's one of these guys where he was struggling with his socials too. So what I told him was, hey, you need to post products of your great stores. So we started posting blouses, women's clothes, all stuff. I don't know the thing about, of course, but we started posting. We started posting the shoes, and we started using these hashtags, especially on Instagram. Instagram's a great place for just photos and general content. So if you don't necessarily want to write a long form thing on LinkedIn or a nice tweet on Twitter or Facebook, Instagram is that place. And it's a great place because it has a domain authority of 100. So it's going to look great in the eyes of Google. And once you start to get more followers and the more likes and traction, that's all stuff that Google takes into consideration. So if you're thinking at home right now, man, my business is Instagram and social media game isn't up to par, take an audit of it. And it's free. You can say, hey, we're not doing this. And people, they're not, growing up. They're not posting content. That's not, it's really important that, there's always a way to tell a different matter of the medium. I don't use TikTok that much, but there's definitely a way. There's definitely a way.
I'm gonna hold your feet to fire. So my original question was, and I certainly get the merits of doing social media and being active, posting, both so that you have followers, so you have consistent, so people actually check you out. But if I'm more active on those websites, does it affect the local SEO, or does it have much of an effect? And that was kind of the genesis of the question, right?
Yeah, I went off on a tangent there. Yes, it does affect it. It does affect it because you think, and from all these metrics, like I was saying, with followers and likes, those metrics Google takes into consideration for ranking higher. Obviously, the more followers you have, the more accessible your keywords are going to be. So for easy pickings for that shop in New York, Jersey, and Philly, if someone was to Google women's blouses or women's shoes, right, or whatever they were going to Google, we rank a little bit higher than we did because we grew our follower base. I think we have like 10,000 followers on Instagram, and that following, it definitely helps 100%.
All right. So now we're going to jump over to, and that was certainly very helpful. So thank you. And interesting how to start ranking locally. And it certainly seems like for a lot of businesses, that's where things are moving, especially if you're having people that are going to be, if you're e-commerce and you sell to everybody, maybe not quite as quite as important, but certainly if you have any sort of physical presence, any sort of location where people either want to come to your office or even just looking for someone local, that one certainly has a big effect. So now going over to Google AdWords, and Google AdWords again is a bit, I don't know, controversial. I keep saying the word controversial. I probably should come up with a better word, but so you take Google AdWords, and some businesses love it. They live it, die by it. They generate a lot of business. They have a lot of success, and other people say, hey, I hate Google AdWords. I dumped a whole bunch of money into it. Seems like I'm not getting hardly any referrals. And I'm sure, and it seems like it can be either a great referral source and a great source of business, or it can be a huge money pit. So first of all, thoughts on that? Are both sides true? Is it depending on the business? Is it just some people don't know how to run their ads? Is it they're not looking in the right spot? Or thoughts on Google ads?
So love them in general, right? We launched a new ad campaign, Dev, that we already met our ROI, and it's 7 days into the month, right? So for us, we know how to run ads. I mean, my business partner used to work at Google, and Facebook, their ad algorithm and their features are kind of similar, so we can, implement those certain tactics. But where people get caught up is, I think that they're not spending in the correct margins. So let me touch on that for a second. Let's say we have $100 to spend, right? And we're trying to get you new acquisitions for your company, right? So we bid on certain keywords. What people, and again, this is the biggest thing, is they lack on the targeting. They lack on how much money is, adequate to different parts of the campaign. So in a general sense, yes, people are, I would say on average, less informed than people who are trained at Google and all this kind of stuff. So ultimately, how do you become better at Google ads? A lot of people that I know, if they just do it and waste a bunch of money, and that's not what I'm going to say. What I can say is, and this is actually a great testament to my business partner, Mac, is we're actually launching a course that is going to be talking primarily about how to build up your digital presence with advertisement. And if you want more so of increased ROI with that's more so free, that you don't necessarily need to pay for. You can go on YouTube and you can just do a bunch of research. I mean, YouTube and Google have been my saving graces, Dev, where I've had to learn so much for myself about exactly how much money to adequate, how much, do you need to go. So the big thing is education. And I definitely preach that because it's a great tool if you know how to use it.
Let's just jump into that. So let's say you take a startup or small business. They don't have right now, they would love to have a budget to hire a marketer or marketing firm or to put some money into that. They're saying, hey, we're just getting started, whether it's a side hustle or we just have a little bit of money. And so they're saying, hey, we're too price sensitive. We don't have the money. If in that situation, what's the best resource or what's the best way to get started? Or should they not get started, put that money elsewhere and wait till they have it? Or kind of what's the best tip for them and somebody in that situation?
Yeah, the latter. I was just going to add on to that. So I wouldn't even recommend Google ads at that point, right? I would recommend SEO first. I would recommend local SEO because what is that? That's a foundation, a base, not only that's free, but you're getting concrete organic rankings that you're not paying for. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, the analogy is, it's rather getting concrete likes and concrete followers rather than just buying them, right? Rather than just buying likes. That's really is. And believe it or not, sure, people could say, oh, we get a lot more business with ads. In my case, in my point of view, for our business model and for a lot of our clients, SEO gets a majority of the business. And once you have a certain surplus that you would like to spend on ads, yes, then I would recommend you diving into those angles. But for someone who's just starting out or someone who's, just trying to cut back on money, look at your SEO first. Is there anything that you could be doing better there? Think about that. And again, this is just me as a business owner trying to, bootstrap and save money and provide a lot of value, man. So Google ads, they're not the ultimate answer. I would think that there's other tools out there like local SEO, like I talked about earlier, that would be better starting off than those Google ads, 100%.
Okay. So, and the question on that, maybe to follow up. So you take SEO, my experience, and it can be completely wrong, is SEO is a bit of a slow burn in the sense that you're not going to go and put out some content and the next day you're going to rank #1 on Google. You have to put in the time in order to be active on your website, do whether it's a blog or at least blog or other content, and actually give a reason for Google and for people to come to your website. So first of all, is that true? Is it a slower burn or a longer build, or is there any shortcuts, so to speak? And shortcuts always make it sound like you're not doing something right, but is there any ways to get that kicked off if you're saying, hey, right now we don't have the money to do Google AdWords, we should focus on SEO? How should they do it so they're not looking at such a long and protracted time frame?
It's a great question. It's a question, Dev, that I get asked a lot. So for people listening out there that don't have a blog, our blog has been so beneficial in so many ways. It's connected us, more importantly for me, with networks and just a whole bunch of people. But what I would recommend people do is start that blog and go on these free sites like ubersuggest.com, go on Google Trends and type in what people are searching for. So kind of reverse engineer. I want to write a blog. I need to find out the title of the blog that people are searching for. So when people Google law in X or virtual tours in X or any kind of niche, right? Then you're going to be able to rank for that. I'll tell you an example. We found that a considerable of people who want to do virtual tours all across the board, real estate, retail, commercial, whatever industry, they're Googling how much these things cost, right? So we made a blog, how much do virtual tours cost? That blog, man, has got us so much business, so many views. It's like, we have so for the people out there, and this is another great tool, Google Search Console, which is a free tool. It's like Google Analytics, but you can actually index your site, and we'll have to talk about this on another episode because it's really, really technical. But what you get, man, is your base of, okay, these are how many people reached your homepage. This is how many people reached all the other pages. Our blog reaches, let's say we got 1,000 visitors to the website. 750 of them are to the homepage. The other 250, man, are from the blog. So it's a great way to spark up some quick interest, because if you can get a blog that's ranking well, and you can just Google, for the audience listening, how do you write a good SEO optimized blog? You can just Google that, right? The tricks and tactics are already out there. I don't want to reiterate that. It's very easy to just go and Google that. But once you have that blog, post it on the website, optimize it. And then like you said, it's a slow burner. I completely agree with that, but it's it's a snowball effect, right? You're pushing that rock up the mountain, and then before you know it, you're going to be going down the other slope and sliding down and getting a lot of business. So Google Ads is one, I guess if you're doing it for a limited time, a short burst of some quick engagement. SEO is a bigger long-term play where you're going to just see your web impressions and your overall clicks increase, as well as your brand. So that's why I definitely recommend SEO, because it's more of a concrete tactic that's going to be around. And it's more passive too, for sure. So, but it's really exciting. I mean, I love the debate, ads versus SEO, but in my opinion, man, SEO all day.
Okay. No, I think that would be, I think that if you're willing to invest the longer term, because the thing with ads is day you turn it off, the day is the flow stops going. So even if you were to get a good ad that's built up, as soon as you stop paying Google, you're no longer ranking there and you're no longer there. And so if you can build up a good SEO presence and just a good website presence, and that can be one where you're not having to pay forever and ever, and you're not tied to it and linked to it nearly as much. And so I think that it resonates, at least with me. So
for sure, man.
Excuse me. So last couple questions, and then, certainly never have enough time to talk about all the topics. Website building and brand awareness. So any thoughts on those? How should people tackle kind of, I would say, brand awareness online, or any other tips that we haven't gone over as to how they should start to tackle that?
So the people out there that haven't started up their own website, what I would recommend is WordPress. WordPress is a little more expensive, but you're getting so much more, right? You have websites builders like your Squarespaces, your Wixes of the world, GoDaddy. You can make a GoDaddy website. But the thing is, you can't optimize technically as much as you can with WordPress. So WordPress is an investment, just like any website is an investment, right? And your domain, that's important too. Like I bought SeanBoyle.com for like $2,000 last week, and I didn't want to pay $2,000 for it, but you got to think there's a million Sean Boyles out there. I have a very generic Irish name, so it is what it is. It's what I have to do to make my nut and grow. So I would say to the people out there that are looking to get that website, WordPress 100%, and then map around for brand awareness. You need to put in your social media links on your website. You need to put in, a blog. You need to put in all these, specific pages, your service pages, your frequently asked questions, your meet the team pages, about page, obviously, contact. So what I'm saying is there's so many different pages. We're still coming up with pages right now. So the main idea, man, is content never stops. The moment that you say, you know what, we just want to hold off on content for a little bit, that's when you're going to start to decline. Sure, there's a lot of people out there that, and kind of like our business too, where we're, we can kind of rely on a couple blogs, but if you're just starting out, you need to, because again, it's like TikTok or any video. One video, you'll go viral, right? So you need to make that one video, one blog, whatever you think is going to, produce some pretty good results in terms of ranking, like we were talking about earlier, and post that to the website, and then making your website as fast as possible, man. So, and that's a huge one too, because people are just starting out. They want to add on all these plugins and all these graphics and stuff, but the website's 13 seconds to load. And if it's 13 seconds to load, no one's going to go there. You're going to get a high bounce rate and you're not going to have any website visitors. So
last bonus question, then we'll have to have maybe a follow-on conversation some other day. URLs, you can pay a whole bunch for them or you can pay a little for them. And usually the shorter URL or the one that's more catchy is going to be the one that you pay more, right? So if it's a few characters or a few letters, then you're going to pay more. If it's, 5 words stringed together, nobody's going to remember how to spell it. And so question would be to you is are shorter URLs as crucial as they used to be, right? And give you a bit of context, my question, in the sense that, it used to be, internet first started out, you didn't have Google or you didn't have, Bing or whichever one you use. I think most people use Google, but, you had to remember. So you had to remember Nike.com or you had to remember Amazon.com or whatnot. And you had to remember the locations. Otherwise you couldn't get to them or you go use some sort of a directory. Nowadays, it seems like if I go and I'm looking for a company, I Google their name, right? So Miller IP Law, rather than remembering whatever the URL is, I'm going to just go Google Miller IP Law, see which one I think it is, and click on there. So is a short URL or a URL in general worth investing in? Does it make sense? Or is it kind of now taking a back burner given that really what you're looking for is search results?
Well, what you want to do for the homepage, which is your URL, your core URL, you want to make it your name. So milleriplaw.com, that's ideal. Momentumvirtualtours.com, right? SeanBoyle.com, DevinMiller.com. Making it as specific as possible for people to find you is key. Now for blogs, which I'll touch on as a little bonus, you want to make more so long-term keywords, right? Because those long-term keywords, although people aren't searching as much, they're very easy to get number one in on the first page and second page on. So, but we'll have to save that for another episode. But yeah, definitely short URLs for sure.
Now the question, I'll follow up with a question. So let's say, because shorter URLs, if a lot of them are now taken, right? It's hard to find. Miller is a very common last name. I actually looked, and it is technically available. They want, I think it was for Miller.com, they want a 200,000 at least, and for Patents.com, they want $2 million. I don't have the money to spend on either of those, but even if I did, I don't know that would be the money I'd spend it. But if you're saying, I can get a shorter URL, it can make it a little bit easier, catchy, or I can go do one of a number of other things to place your money. How important is it to get a shorter URL? Meaning, should I really worry about it, or should I try and get the best one I can and move on? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. There definitely is some give and take. And for your case, what about Miller Patents? That could be one. I would think, again, this is all to your budget. If you have money to blow on a domain, and again, this is an investment at the end of the day. So if you can afford a higher URL, not 200K or 2 million, I definitely can't afford that, nor do I think I'll ever be able to afford that for a URL. But you definitely, it's a case by case basis for sure. knowing your industry, knowing what people are going to search. And again, just using Google Trends, using ubersuggest.com, which are great free tools. You can find out all that information. And it's great because you could save a lot of money, and you don't have to be a complete idiot and egomaniac like me to just buy my domain name for $2,000, which I should have bought it for like $500. But we'll save that for another day, you know.
No, and I think that, I'd agree. And one thing that I have found, this is kind of my thoughts or feedback, is, you know, some of the times I found is I usually, if it's a client or a customer, that they're already either going to know where we're at, they're going to get an email, they're going to either find it in the signature block. But if, you know, where I found honestly that if I'm on a podcast or I'm on somewhere where I'm actually saying the URL or trying to get people to remember it, then it seems to come into even more of a play, because now I am asking them to remember it. And if it's, you know, as an example, a couple of the ones that we use is freestrategymeeting.com. And that one's one that everybody that wants to sign up for a strategy or meeting or strategy session, we can say, you know, on a podcast, I say, go to freestrategymeeting.com and grab some time with us. And I also got meetdevin.com, which is now come meet Devin. I can't get Devin. Devin was apparently too broad or too popular. But if you go to meetdevin.com and I say, now, you know, how do you reach out to me? We'll go to meetdevin.com. So I found that it does seem like, you know, is certainly for some situations, if you're trying to get people to remember it, if you're trying to say it over it, you don't want to have to spell it out, you don't want them to misspell it, certainly seems to play into that.
And you're 100% right, man. Those are great URLs for what you're looking to do, for sure.
All right. Well, as we wrap up, never have enough time to hit all the topics. But if people want to reach out to you, they want to use your services, they want to find out more, or they want to be your friend, or any or all of the above, what's the best way to connect up with you?
Yeah, man. So you can go to SeanBoyle.com. That's my main website. And then you could also go to Sean Boyle M as in Michael, on Instagram, and follow me, send me a DM, say, hey, I loved your episode. And then we'll just connect on there. But Devin, thank you so much for having me on, man. This was great.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Fun to have you on. Now, for those of you that are listening, you got two different options. If you're an expert like Sean is and you'd like to come on and share your expertise, you can go to inventiveexpert.com. And if you're a normal guest who just wants to tell your journey, feel free to go to inventivejourneyguest.com to apply to be on the episode, or to apply to be on the podcast. If you are a listener, make sure to click subscribe so you get notifications on all the new episodes that are coming out. And lastly, if you ever need any help with patents or trademarks, feel free to reach out to us, and we're always here to help. Thanks again, Sean. Been fun, been a pleasure, and appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, brother. Talk soon, man. Thank you.